Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian yang saya menghormati, para panelis yang saya menghormati, salam sejahtera. Izinkan saya meneruskan ucapan saya dalam bahasa Inggris. I think I just want to make a couple of points that will take into view some of the things that have not been said, because I do not want to repeat wonderful, profound, and important points that have been made by the previous speakers and by the person who is organizing this event. Firstly, the relationship of the churches in Palestine goes back to a very long time. The reason for that is because there are Palestinian Christians. Many of the church leaders who are in the Palestinian territories or in Israel, because Israel, you know, is also the birthplace of Jesus Christ. Many of them are Arab Christians. And they have been involved with the Christians from many parts of the world to share of the plight, the occupation, and the continued injustices that are experienced by all Palestinians, whether they be Muslim or Christian. And I think it is very important this evening to make one distinction. Just because USA takes a position, it does not mean that that is the Christian position. There may be forces at work in the country of US trying to promote a pro-Zionist position. But it's very important to know that there are many Christians in USA who are in disagreement with the policies of the United States. Do you know that when George Bush was the president and he belonged to the church called the Methodist Church, of which I come from, and as long as he was president of the United States, he refused to entertain requests for the bishops of the Methodist Church to meet him, to interview him. He refused. Why? Because he knew that all the bishops in his own church disagreed with many of his policies vis-a-vis in the Middle East. Like that, brothers and sisters, there are many strong statements by churches around the world taking a position that has been reflected this evening, that we are against the aggression and the use of force and the continued structures of injustice placed upon the Palestinian people, Christian or Muslim. The World Council of Churches, which brings together many of the Protestant churches in the world, has very strong relationship with the Palestinian people. For many years, the World Council of Churches have been engaged in humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza or the Palestinian territory. For many years, the Christians have been working with the Palestinians in order to bring their just demands to the attention of governments, especially in the West. And so, in regard to this recent incident, it is good for you to know that the National Council of Churches of America, that the World Council of Churches with their headquarters in Geneva, the Council of Churches of Malaysia, the Christian Conference of Asia, that means the churches in Asia, the churches in the West, have all come out strongly, condemning such a blatant act against an effort that actually reflects the true nature of religion. And that when people are suffering, that when people are oppressed, then we should come to the aid of such people. I'm not saying this now to say nice things to you. The churches also stood up against apartheid and told the government in South Africa, you can go to church, but God is not going to listen to your prayer because you oppress people based on the color of their skin. And that is not Christianity. Likewise, on many occasions, the churches have made such statements in the halls of the United Nations or in the halls of the leaders. And so even as I speak to you, there is now going to be a delegation of the World Council of Churches and the Vatican in order to express the displeasure of the churches in the way the Israeli government had dealt with this humanitarian effort. We are now in the process of organizing an international Christian Muslim conference which will be held in Geneva in September. And even already now, one of the topics that we will be taking up is how Christians and Muslims all over the world can work together in order to bring just peace and work against unjust structures that oppress people regardless of religious affiliation. You know, in religion, the most moving thing that can speak to the hearts of those who believe are not words, are not big campaigns. It is the sharing of the suffering of those who have lost all hope. And one of the ways that the Council of Churches and the World Council of Churches and many of the other churches that we are related with want to help people understand the plight of the Palestinian people is to visit, is to communicate through emails, is to invite Palestinian Christians or Muslims to the country for them to share of their suffering. Because as it has been shared, it is almost a war zone, and it is unbearable to live in these places where the access to basic necessities of life are being denied. So in many of the World Council conferences and meetings, we have heard the stories of mothers